Good morning, everybody. This is MoveEasy101, Lesson 1, Getting Started. It's Tuesday, August 7th, 2018. This is actually the first first lesson of a 90-day learning cycle. You can join us now. So it's a little confusing. I think it's a little confusing. I hope I can clear it up. And it probably wasn't helpful for me to say it's confusing, but I teach a 90-day cycle, but now we've started open enrollment, so you can enroll at any week. So your cycle, your 90-day lesson course could start at any time. It could start today, but it could start next Tuesday. So then we start counting your 90 days starting next Tuesday. So it gives us a lot more fluidity. And like Dana, who was in our session that we just finished last week, she decided she didn't want to start it until September. She's taking a break, and she'll start again in September, and her 90 days will start counting then. So this gives us a lot of fluidity and flexibility, and but there's going to be a transition, to it, with it. So bear with us, and if there's anything that you need to talk to me about, we now actually have we have a technical support team that I think is really good. One of them is Kathy, and one of them is my granddaughter, who is very high tech and actually very professional. Kathy will vow to that. No, Kathy doesn't know her. It's Alana, my other virtual assistant, knows her. Anyway, if you click on the chat bot when you go to the online lesson, there's a little orange button. If you click there, you can get help from
in that corner.
So that's just another way to get help. And like I say, we have a new team, and Jude is helping me with enrollment. So we're expanding, and we ought to be able to meet all of your needs, including your movement needs, but also your technical needs. So I'm going to take this down. So I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to ask for a model to step up. I know that if nobody else wants to, Kathy is always able and available and willing. So it sounds like today she's the one.
Kathy's professional. Let them do it.
And so I'm going to.
Okay.
The good news for Kathy is she gets a personal, she gets personal coaching. More so. I can coach the rest of you on little pictures, but she's going to get the best coaching, and she gets better and better and better at being a model. So here she is. We're going to start lying down. Everyone's going to start lying down on your back with a stack of washcloths under your head. Now, Kathy has some lower back issues, so she puts a mobility strip at her lumbar spine. If you don't have a mobility strip, you can take a hand towel or a bath towel and roll it up very tightly and put it under your lower back. And this will actually, what happens is that the lower back, the lumbar spine presses against that device, that stimulation, and it creates some stability for your lower back. And the lower back longs for stability, and it gets a little more stability with that prop. Kathy's put some towels under her head so that her cervical spine is stretched, long, and stable. And before we do anything else, Kathy, why don't you put your hands behind your head? Everybody put your hands behind your head and cup them at the base of your skull, and then drop your head into the towels and then press. We're going to do a little bit of this in a variation later too, but press the back of the skull into your hands. So you should feel the skull lifting away from the neck. It doesn't lift toward the ceiling. It lifts kind of up and longer. It gets longer as your neck, cervical spine stays stable. So press into your hands, your cupped hands, and then just release. Press again. Just do this a number of times. This is very good for forward head, flexed neck, rounded shoulders, downwards hump, Any of the upper back postural issues? This and the many variations you'll be learning in this class is going to move you out of that issue, or if you aren't in it, it's going to help you avoid it, because all of us are rounding forward as we work on our computers and our phones, and knitting and crocheting, puzzles, anything. I can't see you, Parvin.
I got it. I just moved them this side, maybe I can see it
Oh,
better.
okay. So here Kathy is with her knees bent, and now she can bring her arms down beside her hips. Palms up. And we're going to just start, since I'm noticing your breath. But I'm going to teach you probably a new breath pattern every time. And just always choose some sort of breath work before you start your movement practice. And the breath I'm asking you to practice today is the easiest of all, just watching the breath that you're already breathing, watching the breath that you came here with, called native breathing. Noticing the breath, is it long or short? The deep or shallow? Is there any particular place in your body that you're holding tension? So there's no right or wrong answer, but just your own awareness of those things. Taking a few minutes to watch your breath like this is going to improve the quality of your movement practice. The breathing pattern, your breathing pattern may change as you stay here, but it's not changing because you're trying to control it or make it change. It's just happening. You can notice that too. And then take some time to set an intention for your practice today. You could say to yourself, I am a student of my body. You could say, I love my body, or my body loves me, or the one I'm saying for Carolina today, a little prayer intention. My body, her body is an amazing healing machine. Or you can choose another intention if you're already working with one. And then I think what I'm going to do is let you stay there on the floor, just relaxing, and I'm going to read you the blueprint for intelligent movement. It's in the slide deck. It's in your getting started area link that's at the top of your lesson page, of every lesson page. It says getting started. Click here first. Blueprint for intelligent movement. And here are the rules, or here is the blueprint. And if you can hold on to these in your practice, or even in any movement, you will benefit. So slow down before you start, which is what we're doing now. Spending a few minutes watching your breath. Check in with your inner athlete. Everyone has one. When you move purely, easily, and slowly. Move within your pain-free range of motion. Keep checking in with your inner athlete. If you meet pain or tension, make your movements smaller, slower, or stop altogether. Take your time. You are investing in your own good health. Small movements will grow when the body is ready. And then spend a few more minutes watching your breath. So this is the foundation for MoveEasy, and hopefully I will remind you of some of these pieces of this often enough that you'll incorporate them into your movement and your lifestyle. we're going to start. We always teach I always teach 2 learning triplets. The first learning triplet we're going to start with is actually what I think is a core movement, and may surprise you, but it's the 6 directions of movement of the pelvis. So the first thing I'm going to ask Kathy to do is put her fingers on her right and left ASIS, which is her anterior superior iliac spine. You don't have to remember that. You don't have to remember any of the names I mentioned, although you might start to remember them. This is the highest bony mark on the front of your pelvis, and it'll help you feel the movements we're going to do. So the first thing you're going to do is an anterior tilt. So tilt the top of the pelvis backwards toward the floor, bringing your tailbone away from the floor, and you'll increase. Bring your tailbone close. No, here, wait a minute here. I'm reading this wrong. Tilt the top of your anterior tilt the top of your pelvis forward, away from your navel, and bring your tailbone closer to the floor. So you're going to increase your lumbar curve. You should feel a little more curve in the lumbar because you've tilted your pelvis anteriorly. So anterior is the front, but we're thinking about the top of the pelvis and then tilting it forward. So it's tilting it toward the navel. And then the posterior tilt, you're tilting the top of your pelvis backward toward the floor, bringing your tailbone away from the floor, and you'll decrease or flatten the lumbar curve. So I want you to repeat this pattern of an anterior tilt and a posterior tilt of the pelvis. Just rocking back and forth, finding a rhythm and noticing your breath. Anterior tilt and posterior tilt. If you meet with pain or tension, just make your movements smaller. And try to keep the movement in the pelvis. So if you start to notice that you're lifting your buttocks, or you're using your legs, or your rib cage, or your jaw, my tendency is to use my jaw for almost everything, then you want to quiet. You want to make the movement a little smaller. And stop. And we'll go to the next movement of the pelvis. So that was anterior and posterior tilt, two of the 6 directions of movement of the pelvis. Some people don't even know the pelvis moves separately from the spine, but it does. So that's what you're learning here. The next one is the supine lateral hip hikes. I want you to put your fingers this time on the highest bony landmark at the side of your waist. It's called the iliac crest. You should be able to find it. And then you, with your right hip, you hike your right hip towards your armpit. So your hip is on your pelvis stays on the floor. You're going to hike toward the right and then hike towards the left. So it's a lateral hip hike, first to the right and then to the left. Alternating right and left. Taking it easy, moving slowly with awareness of your breath and your movement. Trying to keep the movement into just a lateral movement, not a rotation. We're going to do a rotation next. So this pelvis stays flat on the floor and it just hikes. Side bends. It's a side bend of the pelvis. Try not to involve your lumbar spine or your rib cage or your legs or your jaw. So keep this as isolated as you can. And then when you're finished, just find your neutral, go back to neutral and breathe in and out and notice your resting pelvis. And the third of this triplet, which is triplet number 1, the numbering is just to keep track. It has nothing to do with anything else. This one is a rotation. So now you're going to put your hands back on the ASIS, where I had you put them first. Now you're going to drop your right pelvis toward the floor, and the left pelvis will rotate away from the floor. So this is a rocking from side to side. It's not a hip hike. So try to make it into a rock, rocking the pelvis, thinking of the pelvis, rocking from one side to another. The right side dips, the left side obviously is going to lift when the right side dips. And find a rhythm and notice your breath, alternating between, this is called a pelvic rotation. So try not to hike. It's not a hike, it's just a rotation, a drop and a drop. And a drop and a drop. And try not to involve your lumbar spine or your rib cage or your legs or any other body part. This is actually a class or a course in curiosity. So you are discovering how your body moves. It's not a competition. It's not even a competition with yourself. It's absolutely a discovery. Stay curious, stay aware, and learn something new. And slow down. The brain is able to help you create new patterns, new movement patterns, if you slow down enough for it to track and absorb the new movement pattern. But if you're moving too fast, the brain will not learn the new pattern. What's happened here for most of us, and one of the reasons I start here, is a lot of us don't know that the pelvis can move in this way and move separately from the rib cage and the legs and the spine. So make this part of your home practice and come back next week and tell me how you're doing. You can stop. We're at the end of our first triplet. At the end of each triplet, I'm going to ask you to take a pause and notice that you've completed 3 movements, which could be a small mini home practice. I teach in 3s so people can remember three moves that they might be able to practice. Ask yourself how you feel. How does this feel? And remember, there's no right or wrong answers, or this is really a conversation you're having with yourself. The more you practice those 6 directions of movement of the pelvis, the better you're going to, this is going to help your hips and your knees and your ankles, actually. It's going to help you, help your lumbar spine. It'll help you with lower back pain. It'll help the lumbar spine to start staying stable. It has lots of ramifications. So this is a great move to practice. We're going to come up to standing. So just, what? I'm sorry, what did you say? Go ahead and just roll to your side and come up to standing. So when you roll to your side, this is the best way to get up. Stay here once you roll to your side for a breath or 2, and then use your top hand to bring yourself up. We're going to be seated in a minute. I just wanted to review standing good posture, which is my anytime, anywhere move. And since it's so basic, and since good posture will will be helped by knowing standing good posture, and we're going to be seated. I thought I would toss this in between the two triplets. So you're standing good posture has these characteristics. First of all, remember that it's comfortable and easy. But if you aren't aware of what standing good posture is, you may not be able to get there. So what I want you to do, listen to, is these pieces. So I want you to stand with your feet parallel, your toes going forward, and then stack your ankles, knees, hips, and shoulders. So Kathy, you might, let's see. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, there is a poster in your resources. There's several posters, Egoscue posters on good posture and stacking the joints, and you might want to check them out. So remember, you're going to bring and then on top of stacking your ankles, knees, hips, and shoulders, you're going to bring your ears over your shoulder with your chin slightly tucked.
I'm having enough.
What?
I don't have enough room. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Okay. If you have enough room and you want to find the perfect for you openness in your chest, I would bring my arms up into a cactus pose like Kathy's doing, and see, first of all, Kathy, pull your arms way back behind you to show extreme retraction of the scapula, and then pull your arms all the way in front of you to show extreme protraction, which is where we spend our time, most of us. And I want you to find something right in the middle. So because Kathy does so much of our modeling, she's now become an actress. She has a lot of moves she does for us, so it's lots of fun sometimes. Anyway, so you're going to try to find something. This is going to help you find an openness in your chest that is perfect for you, and you're going to drop your hands after you've found that. So if that doesn't work for you, don't do that. But I will still want you to find something where the chest is more open, probably more open than you're used to having it because of our tendency to walk around with forward shoulders. I want you to feel your feet, and I want you to feel the ground at 3 points. It's called a foot tripod. The 3 points are, and Kathy's going to show it, the bottom, just below the big toe, just below the little toe, and at the center of the heel. So try to notice those pieces when you're standing. And Kathy, can you bring your feet would it be comfortable for you to bring your feet a little closer together? And if it's not, then I'm off base, because you need to listen to your body over my words. I'm just helping you in your exploration.
Yeah, this is actually good for me. Is that good?
Yeah, okay. So she has her feet a little wider than I would have her feet, but she's listening to her own guide, and she's listening to me tell her to listen to her own guide, right?
Yes.
Right. So, but just find something that feels comfortable. And the last thing I want you to do is to contract your pelvic floor zipper, which you're going to learn next week. But I'm going to tell you about it now. This is a zipper, a zipping of the pelvic muscles on the front of the pelvis and the abdomen. And think of a point, 2 points, the point on your pelvis, on your pubis bone and your navel, and then engage all of the muscles between those 2 points without engaging your glutes, without engaging your buttocks. So it's all at the front. That's a pelvic floor zipper. So if you find that, it's going to help you stabilize your hips and your pelvis when you stand. If you want to, you can close your eyes and try to find your inner balance mechanism. So just know that there are a number of different factors that are helping you stand in good posture. And one of them is your own inner balance voice. And if you close your eyes, you'll almost feel this balancing mechanism trying to hold you upright in good posture. So that's the good news, actually, right? And another thing you could do is to place a 2-inch yoga block between your thighs. And this will allow and encourage, I would use a thinner one if you have one, Kathy, I think.
Computer's on it. Okay.
Oh, whoops. Conflict of interest, but I would put a small brick between, do you have a small brick, Dorothea? Yeah. Oh, that's okay too. Small brick, and just press on it slightly with all the other features of good posture that I mentioned before, right? Ankles, hips, knees, shoulders stacked. This is going to help you help your adductors help your good posture. Does that make sense? So it's going to cue the abductors. They have to press on the brick a little bit. So it's going to have those muscles help you stand in good posture. You should try standing in good posture wherever you are until it becomes second nature. So that's it. That's the good posture lecture demonstration. Let's go ahead and sit, and we'll do three triplets on a chair. This is the one I think where Kathy takes her shirt off. Turn with your back to the, right. Turn with your chair to the back, because we're going to want to look at your scapula. I was saying to someone the other day, maybe it was in class, but maybe it was somewhere else. You know, maybe it was in my live class. You know, we know so much about our breasts, but I think it was in my live class. They were so unaware of their scapula that it moved. And so we're going to learn a lot about the scapula because of that, because it's foreign to many people. It just, you know. Now I'm an unusual person. I go to the beach. I look for scapulas. So I don't look for boobs. I look for scapulas. That's just the way it is for me. So what I want you to do, what I want Kathy to do is face the front of the chair. Because she has short legs, she's going to put a brick underneath her feet so that when she is seated in good posture, all the things apply, but she's seated and she needs to have her knees directly above her ankles, which is going to be hard with just one brick, Kathy.
Oh, no, I can do that.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And so the knees are directly in front of the hips, and the knees are directly over the ankles. So what we're going to do first is seated elevation, scapula elevation. I want you to sit on your sits bones, not your tailbones. So that's one of my cues for seated good posture. And you should feel your spine lifting up out of your pelvis. And have your arms lower than your shoulder height, anywhere but lower. And then focus on your right shoulder and your right shoulder blade or scapula. And then raise your shoulder blade up your back. This is called elevation. And then drop your shoulder blade down your back. This is called depression. And then try to notice the movement, the connection between your upper arm bone, so that meets the glenohumeral joint right here, up here, right, yeah, where Kathy's pointing. So try to notice the connection between your shoulder blade and your arm bone, and have them move at the same time. Keep your opposite arm and shoulder quiet. And keep your neck and your jaw relaxed. If you feel tightness or numbness, make it smaller. So Kathy, can you make sure that you're opening your chest? I can't tell for sure, so I'm just cueing this. Just be sure you have the perfect opening. She's going to put her arms up in cactus for just a second to find that. then keep the opening, and now lift. Because if you don't have at least a moderate retraction, this elevation depression is not going to work. I mean, you can notice, you can try rounding your arm, your shoulders forward, and then do your elevation and depression, and you won't really be elevating and depressing the scapula. That something else will be happening. So this is very isolated. See if, I mean, the thing I want you to focus on is, am I moving the scapula? And then the arm bone is moving at the same time. And they're lifting and lowering together. This is
Breathe in and breathe out.
and breathing. Yes, everyone should be breathing at the same time as all of that. And then switching, this is a pure movement. For the first couple lessons, we're mostly going to learn pure movements, different joints, basically. This is the scapula. Well, there's a joint here. The scapula is sliding. It's a sliding joint across the back of the rib cage. Go ahead and Kathy, switch sides, and so should you. So you'll want to do these in your home practice like 3, 6, or 9 times. If you wanted to, you could do an alternating practice, just one side and then the other, either one, whichever your body prefers. Listen to your own inner athlete. If you feel tingling or numbness, or you get fatigue, stop altogether. This is actually, if you're paying attention, if you're doing this the best you can, you will fatigue on this one. We're not used to having the scapula move this way. It moves this way in a lot of small movements, but we're not used to it, just isolating it. And then whenever you're ready, you stop. So make sure that the movement is the scapula and not the arm. The arm comes along, the scapula is the mover. The second one is a seated arm rotation. This time we're focusing, and Kathy can turn around, put her shirt on and turn around. We're focusing on the seated arm rotation. So let me say that, we just finished 90 days, 13 weeks, and we're starting all over, but I do redesign the classes, at least, unless at some point I decide they're perfect. I'll be redesigning them, trying to make them even better. But what I wanted to point out to you is, if you've already been doing these things and you think, well, no, I mastered that. I don't believe you believe that since you're back already, but if anyone ever says that they graduated from practicing these movements, I want you to steer them to, or you might be interested in this video that I have in the resources page about this guy, the science video editor who does all sorts of science stuff. He decided to demonstrate how hard it is to change a movement pattern once it's ingrained. So he'd been riding a bicycle all his life, and then he had a mechanic change the way the steering wheel, I think I have this right, the steering bars worked. So that in order to ride it, he had to retrain his brain with the new pattern that the new mechanical position created for him, or the bars or the wheels or something. It's very cool. He kept a journal. It either took him 8 weeks or 8 months to get over his old bicycle pattern, so that he could get on his bicycle with the new mechanism and ride it easily. And then he tried to go back actually to the old pattern, and it took him just a couple days to get back to the old pattern. But it took him that much to replace. So what we do is we're replacing old unhealthy movement patterns with new patterns. And it takes a while, and it takes a lot of practice and a lot of repetition. So keep practicing, and you'll improve all the time. So you'll notice it. So internal and see, this is another subtle one. Kathy is going to sit in good posture, seated good posture. She's going to put her left hand on the front of her arm bone where it meets the shoulder, the glenohumeral joint right here. And her arm is just hanging down at her side. It could be up higher if she wanted. And I'll tell you why you might want to go up higher at some point. And all she's going to do is internally rotate and externally rotate. So the arm bone moves forward, rolls forward in the glenohumeral joint, and it rolls backward. And the thumb, notice her thumb moves, but the thumb is not the mover. So one of the things that happens that gives us frozen shoulder is when we stop moving at the shoulder joint and we start just moving at the wrist or the elbow. And a lot of people do this, by the way. So it's a fairly common malady and it can lead to frozen shoulder. So all we're doing is isolating pure movement, making sure that if you are having trouble, or if you're noticing that you tend to use your wrist, then just make a soft fist with your hands and that'll help you stay out of your wrist. Back and forth you go, internal, forward, and external, backward. Just rolling this joint in the socket where it belongs. Now, if you felt there were popping and your arm was down by your side, you might want to bring it up. You could bring it up any number of places and try to find a place where it's not popping, right? And you could still be doing this internal external rotation. It's going to be slightly different, but it's basically going to be an internal external rotation of the head of the arm bone at the glenohumeral joint. You don't have to know all these things, although probably eventually you will. I mean, you will come to know them, but you don't have to know the names. Just the concepts I'm describing. And then just switch sides. So remember, you're in seated good posture. I mean, you can practice. I mean, one of the ways to learn something is to practice doing it wrong. So you could round your shoulders and see what it's like to do that. But the reality is, actually, your head of your arm bone is not going to centrate in the joint if you've rounded. And so it'll feel a little off. So, yeah, and then you'll want to come back to seated good posture. If you can start to practice good posture, a lot of things will start reversing for you. But some of these movements we're going to learn are going to help you with your posture. So we do both things. We teach you good posture. We teach you some of the basic pure movements of the joint. And then we also practice some corrective or exercises, mostly coming from my yoga tune-up background, where Jill Miller decided that yoga was creating some injuries and she was trying to tune it up. And so are you using, now it looks like, Kathy, it looks like you're using your wrist. Are you using your hand? No? Here? Okay. Okay. Just be aware.
Yeah.
Be aware. The last one we're going to do on this learning triplet is another pure movement. It's smaller than the one you find in your most yoga classes. I was just trying to think of whether Jill Miller teaches this. I'm not sure if that's where I had got it or not, but if so, in a yoga tune-up class, this might be the spine twist you would find. But in most ones, they use more arms. You'll see with my cues. You're going to sit in seated good posture. The first thing you're going to do, we're going to start on the right side. This is all about your scapula and your thoracic spine, your upper back spine, upper spine. So you're going to start on the right side. The first thing you're going to do is retract your right scapula. So move your scapula towards your spine. You should feel already you're starting to rotate. Take your left hand, put it on your right thigh or knee, and then the second scapula, the left scapula, you're going to open up, so you're going to protract it. It goes away from the spine, and then you're going to just take your chin and move it backwards towards your right shoulder, only as far as it comfortably goes. So that's just an add-on, really. You've already completed your thoracic rotation when you've retracted your right scapula and protracted your left scapula. Keep seated and tall, and come on back. Slowly, we're going to do the other side. So seated, good posture. And the first thing you're going to do on the left side is do a left scapular retraction. And you should already feel the rotation. Keep looking straight ahead. And now you're going to place your right hand on your left knee, just for balance and structure, not for traction or leverage. Now you're going to protract or pull the right scapula away from the spine. That's all of your thoracic rotation. And then you're just going to take your chin, move it slowly back towards left to the left shoulder. Feel lifted up out of your pelvis. So the spine is long, and then come on back. This is a very precise, isolated spinal twist, and you should feel actually a lot of aliveness in the back of your spine. Let's do it one more time, just with these very small movements. So the first thing you're going to do on the right side is you're going to retract the scapula. We know how to do that. We'll be doing more of that in other movements. And then the hand goes across for structure, not leverage. Sit up tall and protract the left scapula. That's all of the rotation you're going to get here. The thoracic spine does not rotate very much. And then go ahead and take your chin across to the right. Very small movement, and it's actually just an additional rotation at the cervical spine. So thoracic spine and then cervical, and then come on back and do the other side. So left side, left scapula retracts. The other opposite hand goes across. The right scapula protracts or moves away from the spine. That comprises your thoracic extension. And then you just want to take your chin back over your shoulder. And come on back. That is the third of this series, this triplet. This might be something you could remember for your own practice. The first one was a seated scapula elevation, remember? And then the second one was the arm rotation, the internal and external arm bone rotation. And then the last one was the seated spine twist. You could do this, you might be able to get away with this in a meeting somewhere. Just these little subtle movements. Who would notice? Except you would notice, you would feel a lot better after you did it.
If Via's sitting behind you, she'll be looking at your scapula.
Yeah, I'll be making sure that you're right. That's true. Okay, I want you to just take a few minutes, just sit here, pause, close your eyes, and ask yourself, how do I feel? You know, are there some things that happen to my body when I accomplished this little mini home practice, really? This could be a little mini home practice. My body longs for that supine, the spine, seated spine twist. So it's a favorite of mine. And it helps you with your posture.
Yeah.
And you know, in an ordinary yoga class, what they're going to be asking you to do usually is to take your arm behind you. But just notice what you're doing is something with your arm. You're not really doing more thoracic rotation. So that's a movement that's totally valid, by the way, but it's just not. I'm trying to teach you to isolate some of these movements. So that's why I don't ask you to use your arms. I ask you not to use your arms, basically. That's what I do. We're going to end with the bonus move, or start toward the end, rolling towards the end with the bonus move, which is a sponge ball chin tuck. The reason I decided to do this is because I've asked everybody to get a sponge ball, and so most people will have one. And because this classic chin tuck move that we even did another variation in the beginning, so you're going to be lying on the floor with the ball under your head. Everybody lying on the floor. Dorcia doesn't have a ball. I hope you'll get one, Dorcia. They get them at Amazon. Just look for the Courageous ball, which is the yoga tune-up one. I think that's cheaper than the spray ball. Either one, they're called a sponge ball. It's generically, it's a sponge ball.
Yeah, I got mine on Amazon.
And but some of I think it's a couple dollars cheaper when you get the Courageous ball from Jill Millett from Yoga Tune-Up. You're going to lie on your ball, on your sponge ball, or Dorcia is going to use a towel and try to create the same effect or a similar effect. It won't be quite the same. She's going to lie on her back. No, not on her stomach. We'll do that another time. Lie on your back. Put this under your neck.
Oh.
Under your head. Not your towel. So you're not going to use your towels. You're going to use your sponge ball. Some people are sleeping with the sponge ball under their head, by the way, now for neck stuff. So the first thing I want you to do, so one of the things I like about doing these chin tucks, which are so important for posture, you can't do too many of them. Anyway, one of the things I like about doing them on the sponge ball is you have a lot of safety and stability and security that's created by the sponge ball, and resistance too, but all of that. And so it creates a really safe, the neck is fairly fragile. A lot of people have neck issues, and right. And so this is a really safe way to start and continue creating strength and stability in the neck. Remember that the cervical spine wants to be stable. So the only movement and the only mobility, and it's not that it doesn't want to be mobile, but it longs to be mostly stable, primarily stable. The only mobility of in the cervical spine is at the top of the spine, the joint where the skull meets the cervical 1 and cervical 2. I think it's called the octo-occipital joint or something like that. I'm sorry, I don't know the name exactly. It's in my art. I have an art blog on this actually, but it has the right name. But so it bobbles, your skull bobbles off the top, but that's the movement that you're looking for. And one of the problems is a lot of people, when they're looking for mobility in the spine, they think they have to get mobility in C3 through 7, and that's not true. C3 through 7, they just want to be stable. They want to be stable and strong. And so this movement helps with that. And let me do a pitch or a video that's in the resources page. The resources, you just click on any lesson page. At the bottom of the left-hand column, it says resources, and then you have to scroll through a bunch of resources, but there's a list of videos, and it's the occipital ridge video. And it shows this, it's a very short one. It just shows this bobble that we're supposed to be doing. And you can do it from seated or standing or supine like this. So having said all that, Kathy is going to press press the upper skull and the occipital ridge. So everything above the cervical spine is going to press that into the ball, This is resistance stretching, pressing in. And as a result of pressing in, her chin will tuck slightly. But I don't want you to tuck your chin without the lift, feeling a lift. That's why this pressing into the back is so important. And you may want to move your ball up a little higher, so it's not just in the curvature of the neck. Try it and see if this works better for you or not. I'm saying I'm higher away from your shoulders. So experiment with where this works for you, but press down. Notice everything, the whole cervical spine should feel longer, and the occipital ridge and the skull should feel like it's pushing away, lifting away from, it's not lifting up to the ceiling, it's lifting away from, creating space between the skull and the shoulders. And just keep doing that a couple times. This is the basic movement. Pressing down. If your chin is doing the work, that's not enough. I want the pressure, the work to be in the skull, the back of the skull. Yeah. The next thing you're going to do, this has 3 parts, is you want to push down again. So do your basic move. And then look to the right. So this is a rotation, actually, a cervical rotation that is protected. This is a kind of a fragile move for a lot of necks. So, because a lot of us have lost that ability to look over our shoulder behind us. This is going to start to reclaim that. But you want to press down first, create the stability of the first move, and then look slowly to the right as far as you can go without without pain or tension or popping. And then come back to center. Always watching your breath and watching and being aware of your movement. So being aware always of breath and the movement. And making the movement as slow as you can, and making sure that the return movement is slow also, because some people tend to go out slowly and come back quickly. And I want you to make the return movement at least as slow as the going out movement. Remember that you're pressing the back of your skull into the ball while you're making this rotation. This is a cervical rotation. And you can start to reclaim your cervical rotation with this. I have a woman who started coming to my live class in downtown in Puerto Vallarta, and she's come 3 times. She has very serious neck issues, which she's been living with for years, and been to specialist after specialist after specialist. And she's come to my class. I don't focus always on the neck. I do a lot of this because I think it's so important. But she came up to me last week 3 times, and she said, I'm starting, she's starting to have hope that her neck issues can be resolved. She said, you've done so much for me so far with just a few short lessons. So the last thing I want you to do is this is the next to the last, actually. Come back to center. So you've done your rotations, right, left, come back to the center, and now drop your right ear to your right shoulder. It's very different. It's not a rotation. It's actually a side bend. Your right ear goes to your right shoulder while you're pressing back into the ball and noticing your breath. Come back and do the same thing on the other side. Come on back. And repeat, you can alternate. So this is not a rotation. You want to be sure that the ear is just dropping down towards the shoulder. And then I'm going to add something here because I think it helps. Often people get impingement in the nerves along the side of the neck. This next move helps create more space there. So just go ahead and drop your head, right ear to right shoulder, and then turn your chin towards your armpit to create even more of a stretch on the opposite neck that you're opposite side of the neck that you're opening. So it's just a slight twist of the chin towards the armpit. And then come back to center and do the other side. Left ear drops directly to the left. You drop it first, side bend first, and then this small movement of the chin towards the armpit. You should feel a lot more stretch. It's an additional stretch. Now, if any of this bothers you, you need to make the movement smaller or slower, or stop altogether and say, well, I'll work on something else that doesn't hurt right now. Whenever you've done that a couple of times, let me know. And then just come off of your ball unless you want to stay there for the closing meditation. You can either use your ball or stack some towels underneath your head again. The point is that you don't want to hyperextend your neck. Dropping your neck backward and hyperextending your cervical spine is never a good idea. Well, we need mobility there, but we don't need hyperextension and in a repeated fashion. I'm going to guide you through a 61-point guided meditation. Which works deeply on your nervous system to balance subtle energies and increase your mental harmony. It helps you to sharpen concentration and shift your attention inward. So be comfortable where you're lying and make sure that you're warm enough. And I'm going to guide you systematically to move through internal points that I mentioned. Please allow your awareness to flow to the points that I'm mentioning without moving any part of your body. Let's begin with breath. Breathe in and out and follow the rhythm of your normal breath several times. Now bring your awareness to the center of your eyebrows, the center of the throat, the right shoulder, elbow, wrist, right big thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, fifth finger, right wrist, elbow, right shoulder, center of the throat, left shoulder, elbow, wrist, left hand thumb, second finger, third finger, fourth finger, fifth finger, left wrist, left elbow, shoulder, center of the throat, spiritual heart center, right side of chest, heart center, left side of chest, heart center, navel center, center of the pelvis, right hip, right knee, right ankle, right big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, right ankle, knee, hip, center of the pelvis, left hip, left knee, ankle, left big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, left ankle, knee, hip, center of the pelvis, navel center, heart center, center of the throat, center of the eyebrows. This concludes your 61-point guided meditation. Go ahead and extend your legs and take your arms overhead. Just stretch and wiggle. Right side, left side, wiggle your fingers and your toes. Wiggle both sides of your body. Hug your right knee into your chest and then your left knee. And rock your knees from side, both knees from side to side. This is a great release for lower back, by the way. Roll towards the camera. Stay here for just a breath or two. Don't get right up from a supine position. And then use your top hand to bring yourself up to seated. We're running a little late, so I'm going to close with namaste and maybe a few announcements. So let's bring your hands together at your heart. And remember that you're going to bobble, so keep your cervical spine straight and stable and quiet, and then just bobble your skull so that the chin drops because the skull has bobbled over or nodded over the cervical, top of the cervical spine. And let's just say to each other, namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome aboard, Dorcia.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say that, so this is the first in a series. If you know of anyone, we're running a couple of special offers. If you know of anyone who might be interested, just give their names to me and I will contact. This is something I learned from Dorcia. I will contact them directly on your behalf about my class. Thank you, everyone. And this you have a replay shortly, will be up of this class. And then there's another class where we review the same things on next Saturday. So you have 2 classes a week, plus all your online materials that are available to you. So this is a very rich, deep class. And I hope you explore all of the facets of it and join our discussion board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kathy. Adios, amigos.
All right.
Adios. Bye-bye.